the most powerful armored spearhead in the German army, wasn't stopped by American tanks. It wasn't destroyed by artillery. It died because it ran out of fuel. It's 3 a.m. on December 17, 1944, and somewhere in the frozen forests of Belgium, SS-Obersturmführer Joachim Peiper goes staring at a map that is about to destroy his entire operation. His Kampfgruppe 117 tanks, 800 vehicles, 4,800 men, is already 14 hours behind schedule. The road assigned to him, Rollbahn D, was supposed to be the highway to Antwerp. He will later call it suitable for bicycles, not panzers, and before this week is over, the most feared armored column in Germany will be stopped by a map, a match and a bridge. 3 days earlier, Adolf Hitler gambled everything on one plan. Drive through the Ardennes, split the Allies, seize Antwerp. The plan has one inescapable flaw. There is not enough fuel. Peiper's force carries barely enough gasoline to reach the Meuse River. The operation is built on a presumption. His tanks must capture Allied fuel depots intact and drink themselves to victory. He is not a spearhead. He is a parasite launched into a body. It must feed on to survive. At the tip is Joachim Peiper, 29, youngest regimental commander in the Waffen SS, decorated, ruthless. His unit on the Eastern Front earned the nickname the Blowtorch Battalion. That is precisely what makes the next 8 days so extraordinary. The offensive opens at 5 a.m. on December 16th. With a thundering artillery barrage, Peiper's column never moves. The infantry ahead of him, tasked with punching the hole for his armor, stalls against the stubborn American 99th Infantry Division. Stalled infantry and supply wagons choke roll, Bondi into a frozen metal snake, stretching for miles before Peiper has seen a single American soldier. This is the detail that breaks the entire operation. There is only one road in this sector, capable of carrying heavy armor, and it is already dying. Every idling engine drinks the fuel he cannot spare. By midnight, he orders his Panthers to physically shove friendly vehicles off the road. He is fighting his own logistics before he has fired a shot. When Peiper finally reaches Lanzerath, at the front a single American platoon, 18 men under Lieutenant Lyle Buke, has held up an entire German parachute battalion. For 9 straight hours, he takes personal command, straps the paratroopers onto his tanks and smashes through. The delay costs him 18 critical hours he will never recover. On December 17th, Panthers scream through sleeping Belgian villages at top speed, firing on the move to spread panic. At Hansfeld, they overrun a resting American cavalry unit before a single defensive order can be given. Speed is now Peiper's only real weapon. If the Americans form a coherent line, his fuel-starved heavy tanks will be caught in a static slugging match. They cannot sustain. At Bollingen, his lead tanks roll in on fumes. He forces 50 American prisoners at gunpoint to refuel. German vehicles from a captured dump. 50,000 gallons of borrowed time. It is a fraction of what his King Tigers alone require. 100 miles west at the Hotel Britannique and Spa, General Courtney Hodges stares at reports. Placing German armor 40 miles behind his front line, the nerve center of the entire American First Army evacuates in controlled panic. But in the chaos, American logistics officers make one quiet, devastating decision: burn the fuel. Don't let the Germans have it. At 12:30 p.m., Peiper's column reaches the Bourgneuf crossroads south of Malmedy. A lightly armed American artillery convoy surrenders. After a brief firefight, what follows becomes one of the most documented atrocities of the European War. Peiper's men machine gun 84 unarmed American prisoners in an open field. Word spreads within hours. Panic turns into something worse. Resolve men who might have retreated now fight to the last cartridge rather than raise their hands. December 18th, Panthers storm the bridge at Stavala. Seizing it intact, a tactical masterpiece, Peiper's column presses through. But the roads fork and the clock runs out at Trois Ponts, where engineers of the 51st Engineer Combat Battalion blow the bridges over the Amblève and Somme rivers as his lead tank rounds the final bend with the road west gone. Peiper turns north, hunting the fuel depots he knows must exist. Somewhere in the Allied rear, 1 mile north of Peiper's turning column, Major Paul Solis of the 526th Armored Infantry knows exactly what is at stake. The Francorchamps fuel depot, 2.5 million gallons of gasoline, Sitting on a hillside road, Major Solis orders, thousands of gallons poured into a road trench and ignited, creating a literal wall of fire between the German armor and the logistical prize of the campaign, facing stiffening resistance. Peiper realizes the northern route is dead. The fuel he desperately needs is close enough to smell, but impossible to reach bleeding time and gasoline. He turns his armor west toward the villages of Leclerc and Stoumont. He is driving straight into a trap. Peiper reaches Stoumont, the deepest penetration of the entire German offensive. In dense fog, his Panthers and King Tigers, close with the American 30th Infantry Division. On narrow streets, the King Tiger cannot maneuver. Once the lead tank is knocked out, the column freezes that same afternoon. American forces recapture Stavelot. Behind him, the trap snaps shut. Kampfgruppe. Peiper is encircled in the confusion of the Stoumont fighting. Major Hal McCown, commanding officer of the 2nd Battalion, 119th Infantry Regiment, moves through the woods to personally link up with an adjacent unit. A German outpost steps out of the tree line. The battalion commander is a prisoner. His men are ordered to pull back north. They keep fighting. Peiper withdraws to the hilltop village of Gleize and turns it into a fortress. In the cellars beneath the shattered village, 570 American prisoners, most of them captured in the Stoumont fighting, huddle alongside terrified Belgian civilians. While the walls collapse above them, German guards barely older than teenagers sing Lili Marleen between artillery salvos to keep their nerves. McCown meets with Peiper. "I give you my word of honor that you and your men will be safe while under my command." McCown believes him. On December 23rd, Peiper radios SS-Obersturmführer Munke and requests permission to break out on foot. Bringen Sie Ihre Fahrzeuge mit welchem Treibstoff? 135 vehicles are sabotaged and left in the snow. At 2 a.m. 800 men file silently out of La Gelée. The men who left Germany to reach Antwerp begin to walk. They wade the icy waters of the Somme River. Peiper keeps his word, but not entirely. The other 169 Americans are left behind in the cellars, with the German wounded, but Major McCown comes with him by Christmas Eve morning. Soldiers of the 119th Infantry Regiment walk into a silent Gleize and find their men alive. Their commander is somewhere in the forest. American prisoner Major Hal McCown walks alongside his captor. In the silence of the frozen forest, Peiper begins to speak not as a conqueror, but as a man who knows the end is near. McCown would later write, "Knowing the war was lost and stripped of his tanks, the arrogant colonel became just a man walking in the snow." The gambler had finally looked at his hand. On Christmas morning, the shattered remnants of the tip of the spear stumble into German lines at 114 miles through frozen forest. They saved their lives. They left everything else behind. Kampfgruppe Peiper had entered the Ardennes with 4,800 men and the most powerful armored task force ever assembled in one column. It returned with 800 soldiers and no machines. The 6 King Tigers abandoned at Leclerc might sound like a small loss, but the numbers lie. While 492 were ever built, barely 150 ever reached the front lines in this one village. Peiper abandoned 4% of Germany's entire heavy armor capability. The monetary figure barely captures it. For a Germany whose factories were being pulverized by Allied bombing, around the clock, these machines were strategically irreplaceable. The word billion is a metaphor for something that had no price at all. The Ardennes offensive collapsed in January 1945. Peiper was tried for the Malmedy Massacre and sentenced to death. The sentence was commuted. He was released after 10 years in 1976. He died in a fire at his home in France. Today, King Tiger 213 still stands in Gleize, a relic of an army that ran out of road. The billion-dollar walk ended exactly there, not with a battle, but with empty tanks, blown bridges, and a map that showed the wrong road. Peiper walked out of the Ardennes, having watched everything he built turn to wreckage and rust. 2 years earlier, another commander stood on the bridge of a carrier and watched the same thing happen in 6 minutes. If you want to see what it looks like when the most powerful naval force in the Pacific dies in a single morning, watch our film on the commander who watched his fleet die at Midway. Want to see more incredible stories of courage, combat, and unbelievable moments in war? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our next film.